that I've never seen in 30 years a marriage dissolve in the same way a business partnership dissolves. Business partnership from the beginning is primarily about money. A marriage is not primarily about money. It's about emotional, it's about spiritual values. In fact, it has very little to do with money. So I caution you against using the dissolution of a business partnership as the metaphor that you use to understand what's going on here. Go back to that grieving model and remember anything under 29 months is fast.
I have something to say.
Yes.
You're a son of a bitch. I have something to say.
Yes.
You're a son of a bitch. She's not your baby.
Oh, God! Russ, what do you do after that?
Well, I think what you do after that is, I mean, at this point, if this is how it is unfolded, at this point, your job is to simply, in one way or another, calm things down. The chances of anything productive being done in this mediation are zero because they are both in a state of high agitation, and that's a biological feature. That's just not going to go away in the next half hour or the next 45 minutes. So they really are not going to be able to resolve anything at this point. And I would conclude the meeting, and I would also conclude the meeting so that they both understood that there were ground rules, that there was a structure to this, and that however upset either of them got, it just wasn't within the structure of mediation to behave like that. And I think that's a statement that would need to be clear.
Hey.
Well, I think that we would probably talk about going back to private meetings, separate meetings, to accommodate the just such a disparity in their stages and their perspective, and to allow both of them to be more candid and feel more safe, and try to find out who that baby belongs to.
I was thinking that would be a wonderful counter-intervention on the part of a mom who insists on paternity tests during the course of a divorce, not to prove that her husband's the father, because that's not what she wants. Of course, and it's imaginative, and she's doing it just to make him crazy.
Well, just like the kennel, the dog in the kennel, right. You know, she knows how to push those buttons. But I think it would be interesting to sort of take her at face value and say, okay, we now have another issue on the table, and be very sort of process-oriented about it, and let me get that down. So you kind of play out the absurdity of it, so that you're one of the players. Like, okay, now it's getting interesting, and I've been waiting for something that we could really sink our teeth into, and I think we got it.
I think that there is, again, I'm going to guess, this is the dynamic in their marriage. He stands very cool, very calm. He's a numbers guy. He's very cerebral. And she's all the emotion and throwing water and making pronouncements about babies. They've played out this drama time and time again. I'm wondering if... So I think that I probably would have made that really clear earlier on, to say this is the dynamic that I see. So in the part where you were saying to him, so for you it's a business partnership, I probably would have identified that, because for you that's how these things show up. And for Anna right then, this isn't at all a business partnership. Maybe validating her in my conversation with him, which may have released a little of the steam that was building for her, because she was sitting there during that whole exchange, she was starting to fume. And maybe even have said that. And I can see for Anna that this is very difficult for her to even sit here and listen to you talk this way, as though your marriage is all numbers. She might still throw in the water. And the baby thing, oh, absolutely. I think you completely call them on that. I see. So that child support number, we can just scratch that one off.
So this eliminates the custody plan.
Okay,
No
we're just about
parenting
done.
plan. We are finished.
Let's see what I get. You really don't have to do that, Mike. Anna, you and I, separate session, that was something. That was a unique experience in my practice. And I suspect you feel pretty good. All right. Separate session, either this office or the other office, again, toward the end of the week, and I'll call you with my calendar, and you'll have yours. And Mike, same thing, extended session later in the week.
That's good.
Laura.
Well, I think at the point at which someone's throwing water and announcing that babies aren't everyone's, I think you have no choice but to just end that session. You did it with good humor. I probably would not have been so pleased. I probably would have said, we're done, and we're not going to be getting anything else done here today. And I would have let them know that there'll be another session. I might follow up later that day with a phone call to each of them, just to make sure that they're okay. He's probably fine. He's seen this before, but to make sure that she isn't somehow spinning out, you'd have to contain that conversation. It would need to be a 5-minute check-in, not a 2-hour check-in. But I might want to make sure that they were okay when you have something really dramatic like this.
Before I ask Russ to comment, the part that's missing, I believe, I think I said to her privately and briefly on the way out that she probably had done the right thing again. It was very dramatic, and that she probably got her point across, but you only get to do that once.
That's good.
And
That's
after
good.
that, you subtract from the message that's been given.
That's great.
So the idea was to go with her,
Yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
that one on, rather than take either one on. Right?
That's great. The damage would have been done at that point, and she wouldn't have heard you if you had been critical. So what you did is you were complimentary, and that opened her ears a little bit, and you were actually able to get a good message across. I also liked that what you said about essentially this is the only time in my 20 years of practice, or however long you've been in practice, that this has occurred. And what you did is you pointed out the exceptional nature of that, of throwing the water, that it's just not something that people normally do, which, that might have a little effect on her in future sessions. A little effect, yeah.
Okay.
I would have had a little trouble validating her behavior, even if it were the first time and we only get to do it once. And you said you must feel pretty good.
I think I said you probably feel.
You
pretty-
probably feel pretty good. I would not have framed it that way, because I feel that would have encouraged her to, this is how you feel good. It was not appropriate behavior in my mind. There is a point when, as a mediator, then I would have to tell them that looking at the behavior in this room, I have to rethink my participation. And I understand the pain, and I understand how difficult it is, and I understand that you think this is a business deal, and I understand that you're at a completely different stage than your husband, and you have a lot of things to work with. But I also am participating in this voluntarily, and I'm not just the puppet that gets jerked around. I have a job to do, and I'm hoping that I can facilitate in a positive way instead of just watching them spin out of control. And if they're spinning out of control, I begin to question my usefulness within their dynamic. And what I found when I do this is they begin to, it'll be okay. Can we just come back next
That's
week?
right.
You know, maybe we just need a couple weeks off. Maybe, you know, I need to go see my mother. You know, I'm going to go talk to my lawyer. They start kind of like, oh, okay. It's sort of, you expect a little more out of them, and they step up.
That was the conclusion of the first part of Chumley's program on using the state's theory of grief to design and evaluate interventions. Now, we've all had that experience of thinking of the perfect thing to say or do seconds, minutes, or days after it's too late. That's what happened to Chumley a couple weeks after we finished filming the anger segments for these programs. The Chumley players had assembled, and we were doing some improvisational exercises, and from those exercises there emerged what I think was a perfect intervention to Mike's anger. And then what was even more perfect, if that's possible, was the way Mike responded to that intervention. It's very good, and it's the way we start part 2 of interventions. You're going to like it.